Most people believe their problem is motivation. They think that if they could just feel more inspired, more confident, or more ready, everything would finally fall into place. But that belief is the first and most dangerous lie amateurs tell themselves. Motivation is not what separates people who create meaningful work from those who stay stuck for decades. The real difference is something far less glamorous and far more uncomfortable. It is the difference between thinking like an amateur and thinking like a professional. And here is the hard truth. Almost everyone thinks they are already thinking like a professional, while quietly behaving like an amateur every single day. The moment you decide to take your work seriously, something strange happens. Resistance shows up immediately, not as fear in its obvious form, but as reasonable excuses. You feel tired. You feel uncertain. You feel distracted. You feel like you need more information, more clarity, more time. These feelings feel personal, but they are not. They are predictable. They are automatic. They are the mind's defense mechanism against growth. And the reason they feel so convincing is because they sound like your own voice. This is why so many talented people never produce anything meaningful. They mistake emotional signals for instructions. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel confident. They wait to feel inspired. And while they wait, years pass. Professionals do not wait, not because they are fearless, but because they understand something amateurs never do. Feelings are unreliable. Discipline is reliable. Systems are reliable. Identity is reliable. An amateur asks, "Do I feel like doing this today?" A professional asks, "What does the work require today?" That single shift changes everything. One of the biggest mistakes amateurs make is personalizing outcomes. When something works, they feel validated. When something fails, they feel exposed. Their identity is welded to the result. This makes every attempt emotionally dangerous. Every piece of feedback becomes a threat. Every setback feels like proof that they are not cut out for this. Over time, the emotional cost becomes too high, so they unconsciously avoid showing up at all. Professionals separate who they are from what they produce. They understand that failure is data, not a verdict. They understand that criticism is not an attack, but information. They understand that success does not mean they are special, and failure does not mean they are broken. This emotional detachment is not coldness, it is survival. Another mistake amateurs make is negotiating with discomfort. They treat inconvenience as a signal to stop. They believe productive days must feel good. They believe struggle means something is wrong. Professionals understand that discomfort is the price of admission. They do not romanticize pain, but they do not avoid it either. They expect resistance the way athletes expect soreness. It is part of the process, not a reason to quit. This is why the idea of playing hurt matters so much. Professionals do not stop because conditions are imperfect. They stop only when continuing would cause real damage. Amateurs stop at the first sign of friction. They confuse inconvenience with impossibility. There is also a cultural trap that keeps people amateur forever. We live in a world that rewards visibility more than substance. People are praised for talking about work instead of doing it, for planning instead of executing, for branding instead of building. Amateurs get caught in this loop. They consume endless content about productivity, creativity, and success, mistaking consumption for progress. They feel busy, but nothing is produced. Professionals reverse this equation. They create first, consume second. They protect their attention like a scarce resource. They understand that focus is not something you find, it is something you defend. They remove distractions not because they are weak, but because they are serious. One of the most destructive amateur habits is perfectionism. It looks noble, but it is fear in disguise. Perfectionism delays exposure. It keeps work hidden. It prevents completion. Professionals understand that no first version is supposed to be good. They think in iterations. They allow themselves to be bad on schedule. They know that refinement comes later, not at the beginning. This is why professionals finish things, and finishing changes a person. Once you finish something meaningful, even once, you are no longer the same. You become someone who finishes. That identity compounds. The mind learns that discomfort is survivable, that doubt does not kill you, that progress happens through repetition, not breakthroughs. Another trap amateurs fall into is seeking validation before commitment. They want reassurance before they begin. They want approval before they invest effort. Professionals commit first and let results speak later. They understand that early validation is often a trap. It creates pressure without structure. It inflates expectations before skills are ready. This is why many people sabotage themselves right after early success. They become attached to praise. They chase the feeling instead of the craft. When the next attempt feels harder or less rewarding, they panic. Professionals expect this dip. They understand the brain's reward system adapts. They stay focused on the process, not the emotional payoff. A professional mindset also changes how time is perceived. Amateurs overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. Professionals reverse this. They focus on small, repeatable actions. They build momentum quietly. They understand that consistency beats intensity when intensity is unsustainable. This is especially important for people with full lives, jobs, families, obligations. The myth that you need unlimited time to do meaningful work keeps countless people stuck. Professionals know that 2 focused hours done consistently can outperform 8 unfocused hours done occasionally. They stop chasing perfect conditions and start working within reality. Turning professional also has a social cost. This is rarely discussed, but it is real. When you raise your standards, people around you feel it. Your discipline becomes a mirror. Your consistency challenges their excuses. Some will support you. Others will resist you. Not because they want to harm you, but because your growth destabilizes the unspoken agreement to stay comfortable together. This is where many people retreat. They do not want to disappoint others. They do not want to stand out. They do not want to seem obsessed. But meaningful work requires a certain amount of imbalance. It requires choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term approval. Professionals accept this cost, not with arrogance, but with clarity. They understand that isolation is sometimes temporary, that new communities form around higher standards, that respect often arrives later, not sooner. There is also a deeper layer to turning professional that goes beyond discipline and habits. It involves humility, the understanding that ideas do not fully belong to you, that creativity is not something you force, but something you prepare for. Professionals show up not to dominate the work, but to serve it. They create space for insight to arrive by being reliable, not inspired. This is why rituals matter, not because they are mystical, but because they signal readiness. They tell the mind and body that it is time. Over time, the resistance weakens. Not because it disappears, but because it loses authority. Another amateur illusion is the belief that confidence comes first. Professionals know confidence is built through evidence. Evidence comes from action. Action comes before confidence. Waiting for confidence is waiting forever. Professionals also understand when to stop. They do not grind endlessly. They respect diminishing returns. They stop sessions while energy remains, leaving something for tomorrow. This builds continuity. It makes starting easier. It keeps momentum alive. Perhaps the most important shift of all is this. Professionals take responsibility for their inner state without obsessing over it. They do not wait to feel good to work. They let the work make them feel good. They understand that meaning follows effort, not the other way around. If you are listening to this and feel exposed, that is not a bad sign. It means something inside you recognizes the truth. Resistance only appears when something matters. The size of the resistance reflects the importance of the work. Turning professional does not mean becoming rigid or joyless. It means becoming trustworthy to yourself. It means keeping promises you make in private. It means choosing action over mood, structure over fantasy, depth over applause. The question is not whether you are talented enough. The question is whether you are willing to stop negotiating with the part of you that wants to stay safe. You do not need permission to turn professional. You do not need credentials. You do not need confidence. You only need a decision. And once that decision is made, everything changes. Not all at once, not dramatically, but quietly, daily, irreversibly. That is how real work is built.